My name is Folland. I'm an artist currently based in Adelaide, where I've been working for the past 3 years. The work in this exhibition is titled Anchor, and the title refers both to anchors on seafaring vessels, but also to the way that we sometimes anchor ourselves into our homes and the places in which we live. The work consists of 5 chandeliers and 5 matching ceiling roses, and the ceiling roses are attached to the walls and the chandeliers are floating very, very close to the ground. I guess for me, the naming of the work as Anchor, which quite obviously, I guess, the form of the chandeliers is very much like an anchor form in a way. And I've been collecting chandeliers for a very, very long time. They're often found within my work in one way or another. But I wanted there to be some sense of movement within this installation, that the chandeliers were perhaps drifting across the floor in one way or another, which is also why it's important that the spaces are here, that the audience can move in around the chandeliers. I collect them from garage sales, eBay, auctions, all sorts of places. They turn up absolutely everywhere. I spend a lot of time configuring these works. The installation is very, very important, and it was important to me that I was able to install this work quite specifically within this space to allow the work to have spaces that an audience can move through. It's important that an audience can actually physically move in and around my work, that they can experience it from different angles, so that the work isn't quite so static. I think by having a moving audience, it allows the work also to have a sense of movement, because it is, in many ways, that the work is very pinned into place and very, very contrived, but hopefully by moving through it, you get a sense that the work, there is some amount of flow within the piece itself. The ceiling roses, rather than being fixed to a ceiling, are actually attached to the wall, and the chandeliers are suspended very, very close to the floor. I guess I like the idea that these materials might have kind of slipped down from the ceiling or something like that. I like the idea actually that whenever I leave my home, that my furnishings start to communicate with one another, that the refrigerator might be having some relationship with the couch that I'm unaware of. I often use materials that are drawn from domestic situations, and particularly from homes, the types of materials that we all find really very, very familiar. But I tend to shift those materials, the things that we do know so very, very well, but to move them into a slightly new position so that they become just slightly unfamiliar or slightly shifted in a way that maybe makes us wonder about our own homes, I think. And that reference to the home is really quite important to me, but it's not every home. Using chandeliers, the chandeliers as a material have a very specific reference. There's a kind of decadence in chandeliers, a kind of pretense in chandeliers, and I think in a way they're quite popular again, and particularly at the moment. You open a living magazine and every second page has chandeliers at the moment. And they work very, very well in very minimal housing. And I think it's kind of interesting, that new fascination for kind of focus pieces within domestic homes. So within this work, I guess I'm playing a little bit on that popularity of this material. The gallery in it is in many ways like the new modern homes. The white cube of the home is very much like the white cube of the gallery, and I think that's something that's very structured and very intentional in minimal housing. It is about the display not only of furnishings but of people within those spaces. I actually initially studied interior design, or I started to study interior design. I didn't finish the course because I found that it was just too bound in kind of rules and regulations, the idea that form has to follow a function. But I spent a lot of time in that course building furniture, pulling furniture apart, and I think that's really stuck with me through my art practice. But I guess in a way that the form follows function is something that I've turned on its head in order to allow these materials to express something else. But I also see interiors and the way we decorate our homes as having very clear references to landscape, that the interior is a landscape in itself. And the materials we use very often refer to landscapes in themselves. But even the basic processes of flowing water and fire in stoves, heating, cooling, I'm very interested in all of these processes and that relationship back to nature. I think the chandeliers, there's something that's kind of mysterious about cut glass in particular, and I think part of what draws us to chandeliers are the way that it reflects light, and we're very, very drawn to that. We like the rainbows that it will cast through the sky or across our walls. There's something quite mysterious in that, and I think we're drawn to those kinds of small mysteries within our homes and within objects and materials. And I think that's the appeal of items like that. I have used a lot of cut glass in my work. It's also something that you can't focus on very easily, and it's not something you can look through very easily. The surface is quite dominant in a way. And so with a lot of my work where I'm positioning things, say within cut glass decanters or materials like that, it's a way that I can obscure a subject matter in a small way and also create a certain amount of mystery around the subject matter that I'm dealing with. Very often my work is inspired by a narrative. I read a lot of travellers' tales and a lot of stories of exploration, and I'm not so interested in the entire narratives, but I find there are just points within the narrative that refer to something, more often than not, something psychological, about the process of discovery or about the process of being lost or being in very desperate and unusual situations. I think the early narratives of exploration are fascinating on a psychological level, but also on a physical level. And I guess I hope that there's a little bit of that desire for some other kind of state or place within all of my work. And I think that this work, Anchor, hopefully has a little bit of that sense about it too, that some kind of otherness about it.